Hi, friends. I'm Jen Johnson, and this is Thought by Thought Healing, where I talk about everything related to chronic pain and mind body disorder, and how when we address the brain, our beliefs, our thoughts, our patterns of life, we can understand what might actually be causing stress in our nervous system. I come at this from a Christian perspective because that's really important to me. So, if that is important to you, then you should definitely subscribe. You are in the right place when it comes to healing and God. On this channel, I interview a lot of different experts. I interview mind body doctors and therapists and neuroscientists. And I also interview people who have healed and who want to help other people to recover from these symptoms. So today I had the honor of interviewing Stacey Dicks, and she's going to share her story of healing. And these are the things that she was able to heal from: chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, Lyme disease, mold illness, centralized sensitization disorder, pelvic floor dysfunction, IBS, Candida, leaky gut, and SIBO, and many, many more. She's also going to talk about a stretch and breathe class that she offers for free on the first, third, and fifth Fridays of the month. And it can be really scary to get moving after you have thought something was structurally wrong with your body. You might have not used your body and avoided certain activities. So, this can be a nice, gentle way to get into movement for you. She's also, at the very end of the interview, going to talk about some other resources that she offers. And so, I would stick around and listen to everything. I'm going to ask her her favorite 3 tools that she used during healing, and you will see that we share those 3 tools in common also. So it's definitely worth a listen and worth taking a few notes. All right, everybody, thank you and have a great day. Enjoy this interview. All right, let's get started. So today I have the honor of talking with Stacey Dicks. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. Thank you, Jen.
Yeah. Let's start with I want to go with your healing story to start with. I know we have other things we want to talk about today too, but
Yeah.
um, tell me a little bit about your story of symptoms and healing.
Yes, we all have such a unique story, but also a story that has a lot of commonalities, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
my story, in short, seemed to come out of the blue. I was doing well, trucking along,
Hmm.
working full time, engaged, and doing well. So I thought, and I woke up one morning,
Oh.
which felt like mono or flu-like symptoms. And from there, everything just plummeted. And that started my search for what's wrong with me and just tons of
Mm.
doctors and test results and had to quit my job, of course. And that was the start of 17 plus year journey.
Oh, this
Yeah.
is a long
With
time ago.
illness. Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
were you engaged to be married or engaged in life? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Engaged. Yeah. Engaged to be married. Yeah.
Okay.
So
What,
we had
what,
just moved. Sorry. We had just moved from Virginia Beach, where we met and had a bunch of friends, over to California. My husband was military, he was Navy. So
okay.
it took us to a place, San Diego, where we didn't know anybody. So it was definitely new, a fresh start. And I think that was part of the culmination of many things that probably tipped me over the edge.
Okay. Yeah. And a lot of those things sound like they would be kind of good things too.
Right. Yes, you would think.
Hmm. You would
But
think.
stress is stress.
Hmm.
And combined with other past stressors, we know that the bucket can just become too full
Yeah.
and overwhelm.
Hmm. Yeah, that's always a tricky one when people say, "Oh, but they were good things." Um, but they can
Yeah.
trigger past emotions, and also change is we have to adapt to
Mhm.
change, and sometimes our bodies are like, "Wait, this is too much."
Yeah. Yeah.
So what kind of symptoms did you experience?
Oh my gosh. In the beginning, it was just like I'd been hit by a truck. It was flu-like, it was severe fatigue accompanied by severe insomnia. Um, and
Mm.
it sent me on a trail of just doctor seeking, looking for answers. But as the journey went on, I developed more symptoms. And I don't know how much you want me to share what I had as far as diagnoses or symptoms. I certainly don't want to trigger anyone, so just guide me on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I would love to hear some of the diagnoses that you had, just because I think
Yeah.
that can be helpful for people to recognize which symptoms uh,
Yeah.
or which
Yeah.
diagnoses can be mind body.
Yeah, that's so true. And so for me, the biggies were chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia was a diagnosis,
Uh-huh.
um, IBS, lots of things related to stomach issues like leaky gut and
Oh,
functional dyspepsia, food intolerance stuff. I had developed also severe sitting pain and back pain for years. Um, Oh my goodness. And just to find out that it could be reversed from this with this work. Oh my gosh, what a relief. I mean, what a miracle. And then other things I had, constipation, depression, pain in various parts of my body, tingling, burning. The tingling and the burning were so bad at some points that I could not walk. I had to use a wheelchair if I needed to go see a doctor or leave the house, like to try to get to the store.
wow.
So that gives you an idea of, yeah, I mean, how limiting these symptoms can be, but just remembering and reminding ourselves that they really come from the brain and how powerful the brain is.
Yeah.
It still astounds me,
I
still
know.
fascinates
Me
me,
too. Yeah.
doing this work.
Yeah.
So,
So when you started going to the doctors, I always like to hear what was that like for you to go from doctor to doctor, trying to figure out what is going on with your body. If you can go back emotionally to that time, what was that
yeah.
experience like?
Yeah. I remember so at the time when I got sick, we were in California and I saw a few specialists and did some special protocols that they said would heal chronic fatigue. I ended up at I believe it's called the Fibromyalgia and Fatigue Centers of America. I don't know if they're
Okay.
still around, but this was
Okay.
like 20 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Thought that was the answer, with supplements and things. And
Mm.
there was just so much fear, fear, desperation. Is this my life now? Am I going to get better? Like,
Yeah.
and the thought, what happened to me? I was
Yeah.
healthy. I like to work out and exercise and go to the gym. I've always enjoyed
Mm.
eating healthy, and just having an active lifestyle. And then you wake up one day and you're like, what happened? What happened in my life? Because now it's taken a 360. It's totally different than it was, yesterday or last week.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah.
so here you are in this hunt. This
Hmm.
spiraling hunt. And at some
Yeah.
point in time, it sounds like you discovered the mind-body connection. Um, Tell me about how that happened. Was it Sarno? Was it curable? What did you discover?
That's interesting because when you just mentioned Sarno, it brought me back to a memory. Somebody along my journey had given me a CD set, okay? They played in my car. So
Yeah.
this takes us back of healing back pain, the healing back pain book.
Oh,
As I listened to everything he said and saw myself in there,
yeah.
and I even remember I was in the car with my parents at one time and I had them listen. They're like, oh, that is so interesting. But that came upon my path, but I didn't grab onto it at the time.
Mhm.
I think another 4 or 5 years at least went by.
Oh,
And then I was at what I call the pit, the worst of the worst, the lowest of the lowest. I think we all have that low point.
mhm.
I was at my parents living with them because my husband had to work. And I couldn't drive. I couldn't take care of myself. So they were shuffling me to doctors, driving me around. And
Wow.
at one point when I was there, I stumbled upon a Facebook ad for this thing called Curable.
Mhm.
And like, what is this? Um, and it piqued my interest. I thought, well, that's one thing I haven't tried. And to be honest, looking back at this very low point in my journey, my husband and my parents talked to me a couple times, and at the time it felt offensive and hurtful to me. But they had kind of come to the conclusion like all these things aren't working. Is there something we need to explore, maybe mentally or emotionally?
Um,
And to me, that just felt like a dagger in the heart.
mhm.
Like I perceived it as they think I'm broken and something is wrong with me. But they could see from the outside, all these other things aren't working. So it was interesting that they saw a little bit of what I would walk into eventually and
Mm.
grasp hold of before I could see that.
So it sounds like you had to kind of come to that conclusion yourself,
Yeah.
but other people had started to see it and it,
Yeah. And I think they were just wondering, I had tried all these medical, alternative, naturopath, all these treatments, these protocols. And I think they realized something should have worked already, you know? And I
yeah.
finally got to that conclusion myself. If it was something in the natural that could be fixed or treated, it would have worked by now.
Hmm.
So, stumbling upon this approach, this mind body that was totally different than anything I'd looked at before, I would say I was curious. I don't know if I just grabbed onto it. I wouldn't say I was like, oh, yeah, this is it. I'm sold. It was
Okay.
more like, this is different. I'm
Okay.
curious. I need to explore this.
Mhm. So
Yeah.
what did that exploring look like for you? Was it diving in and listening to podcasts and using Curable? What route did you take for people listening that might want to consider um, their own exploration
Yeah.
journey?
So at the time, curable groups was my introduction.
Oh,
That was the way that I found out about mind body stuff. Um, and I remember thinking, oh, that's quite a hefty cost. I've already spent tens of thousands of dollars. I just don't know if I can afford any more.
yeah.
And at the same time, you think, or I used to think, you can't put a price on health. I know the financial strain that can come with illness. And when you are married, you're on one income, it causes so much stress because both of you just want the one to get better.
Mm-hmm.
But the desperation that comes with seeing money fly out the window and no answers, no relief happening. So all that to say, I decided I would take one more plunge with the curable groups and explore this mind body route.
Yeah.
And honestly, I wouldn't say that was it for me. That was more of like, oh, here's a taste. Here's an introduction. And once I started to get a hold of that information, I just dove in
Yeah.
to like Sarno and podcasts and healing testimonies and Dr. Schubiner's and The Way Out and just reading. Of course, The Way Out didn't come out till I was farther in my journey, but
Yeah.
everything that I could get my hands on and self-teach and listen to how others navigated their journey and recovered
Yeah.
gave me not only instruction and tools to use, but it gave me hope. And
Mhm.
keeping myself in hope was so critical to keep moving forward and believe that I could also recover.
Yeah. Yeah. That hope is in quite is in contradiction to the desperation you were just
Hmm.
which talking about, which that desperation, the desperation to heal
Yeah.
is such it's such an what am I trying to say? A two-sided coin, and
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
analogy is not working at all. But we want to heal, but it's that desperate drive to heal that sometimes actually blocks us and gets in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. I
curable
remember.
gave you some hope.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I think of it like as a springboard. There was this introduction to this information, and I started to dabble in some mind body Facebook groups and
Okay.
just think, oh, well, these other people have stories of
Mhm.
recovering from chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, all these things. So there must be some hope for me. But I do want to point out, I think a lot of us look for the exact same symptoms, the exact same manifestation to give us hope that, okay, now I've found somebody that has the exact same representation of my
Mhm.
symptoms.
Yeah.
So therefore, now I can have hope that I can heal.
Yeah.
But as you and I know, the brain can manifest any constellation of symptoms. There doesn't need to be a rhyme or reason. And when we search for another person that has the exact same symptom set as us, we can be searching and searching for a long time, and it can keep us in that desperation mode,
Yeah.
right? So I think
Absolutely.
it's just important for people to remember the brain is so powerful. It can create just about any symptom, and we don't need to find, we just need to know the brain is doing it, and it can be reversed with this work. We don't need to look for the exact same symptoms as someone else, because I think that can hold a lot of people in bondage and fear if they don't find that.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of hope, that
Hmm.
brings me to something we have in common, which is our love for Jesus. Um,
Yes.
can you just share a little bit about faith in your journey, your relationship with God in the healing process? I also want to ask you what your favorite tools were for healing, because we all have our own set. But first, I
Yes.
just kind of like to hit and just give an opportunity to talk about God in the midst of this journey.
Yeah. Thank you. I just hope I don't get emotional.
Oh, emotional is
I'm
just fine.
sorry. I feel like God kept me going,
Yeah.
when I could not seem to find the strength myself.
Mm.
Um, I remember when I was at my parents', and they were taking care of me. My husband was in another state because, of course, he had to work, and um, my parents were shuffling me to different doctors to try to get diagnoses. They lived in Charlotte, North Carolina. They still do. And so that's a pretty big hub for medical. And we lived in a very tiny town in Alabama at the time. There just wasn't like great medical care there. But I remember while I stayed with my parents, that I would get up in the morning, get my coffee, and just sit down with my Bible
Mm.
for for hope, to try to look for that hope. Um, and I think that's a lot of what kept me going, besides, of course, my husband, my parents. But, looking in God's word for his promises and how much he loves us. And I just really believed that there was a reason for these symptoms. I just didn't accept the labels that the doctors had given. I just didn't accept, like, oh, this is the way life is going to be. I didn't yet see a way out. I didn't know the solution yet, but I just believed that God wanted me well, and that his word had that hope for me.
Mm.
And so I just remember kind of clinging to it like a lifeline. So that was like at my lowest, during the pit. And as I moved along my journey, found curable, found my body stuff, again, some more hope came. And at the time, God led me to a couple different books that combined neuroscience and biblical healing and scripture.
Mm.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool.
Yeah.
Like neuroplasticity and science is catching up with what the Word of God already says. It said a
Yeah.
long time ago. And it ignited in me this passion of,
Mm.
I think I'm onto something with this mind body work. And God is showing me how to weave in my faith with the neuroplasticity and the science to
Mhm.
make that
Mhm.
perfect. I don't want to say formula, but kind of solution for me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So then you start out on this healing journey, and for people listening that maybe are overwhelmed with all the options of things they can do to heal, or maybe they're just starting out and they're like, wait, what did she do to heal herself? How did she heal herself? um,
Yeah.
what do you say your favorite three tools were? I know it's
Mm,
hard to narrow it down because there's no way you only use three. But what were your favorite things that you did that you think were helpful?
yeah.
Journaling, talking to your pain, etc.
Yeah. I will say one without a doubt. I'm going to list two, but they go together. I think they're used interchangeably, so I count them as one.
Okay.
Um, Outcome independence and indifference. So approaching life, trying to live our life as if there's nothing wrong with us. I know that sounds totally ridiculous to a lot of you listening, and you think, how can that be? But as I learned more science and leaned into my faith and realized all the things that the brain can do and how symptoms can manifest, I truly understood and believed there was nothing wrong with me. I wasn't broken.
Yeah.
So that gave my mind permission to, well, I can go to the store, I can go outside and get in the pool, even though I feel like I really need to stay in bed and I can't move.
Yeah.
Like I understood intellectually that is not going to hurt me. It doesn't feel good. But the more I approached pieces of my life with just trying to embrace and enjoy those pieces of life and truly live like I wasn't broken or sick. And it took a lot of repetition. Don't get me wrong. This wasn't like over a week or a month's time. But as I did it more, I started to see more and more pockets of symptoms going away and relief. And I just bought more and more into it and had more confidence that this is the way out. So, one tool I know, indifference and outcome independence, basically trying to live our lives the best we can despite what's going on in our body, despite symptoms. I think that's probably one of the biggest.
And I just want to
Oh,
pause there and say, if I was a
yeah,
listener new to this journey, I would rewind and listen to that again and just take
yeah,
notes. Yeah, that's
yeah,
it. I feel like that is such a huge part of
yeah,
recovering is that outcome independence and saying, okay, Lord, I'm going to live the abundant life you've given me.
yeah,
I'm going to move in. I'm going to build it. And yeah, there's
yeah.
going to be, my brain's going to say, what are you doing? It's
Yeah,
going to,
it's gonna throw a fit. It's
yeah.
gonna throw a tantrum because it's uncomfortable and it doesn't want you to challenge it. But I'll give a quick example for people wondering, like, what is she talking about? What does that look like in real life? Um, there's like several examples I could give, but I'll go back to the pool example. My husband one day saying, I'm going to go jump in the pool. Do you want to come? And I thought, I don't know if I can get out of bed or get up from laying down,
Yeah.
just based on how poorly I felt. And I thought to myself, well, I can lay here and I know I'm safe here and nothing's going to change if I just continue to lay here. Or I could walk the 50 feet, whatever, out to the backyard to the pool and just, I could get in for a little while. Maybe I'll end up laughing with my husband. Maybe the temperature of the water will feel good. Maybe I'll forget for a split second or 5 seconds or 30 seconds about how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I can always come back inside. Like I can do it. I can leave when I need to. And so it's that kind of example. I did that. I ended up laughing, having fun. Did I have symptoms? Yeah. But it was a way to teach my brain, I can live life. I can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. Yes. Okay. That was your first
Oh,
tool
that's right. That
or
was one.
maybe first and second.
So another one talked about so much in the community, visualization.
Yeah.
I just every day in my journey, I would just set my phone timer, go lay on my bed, set it for 10 or 15 minutes. And I would pick a scenario or a circumstance that I wanted to fully visualize with every detail in my mind. For me, being in the fitness industry, it was often working out
Okay.
and doing things fitness wise that was literally a dream at the time because I could barely move or bend without pain.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
bringing in every detail, seeing myself doing jump squats and burpees and lifting heavy weights again. I used to be a gym rat
Mm.
and seeing myself smiling and laughing and enjoying it,
Mhm.
seeing what was around me, what was in my environment and pulling in all those details of our senses.
Yeah.
And I did it a lot.
Yeah.
And that helps pave those neural pathways to what we want to do. We are telling our brain we can do this, it's safe.
Yeah.
And we know in the community scientifically, our brain doesn't know the difference of are we thinking about it? Are we doing it right now? Oh, she's thought about it a lot. I don't know the difference between imagining, says the brain, and doing it. And she's laughing and smiling. So it must be okay, must be safe. And so as I did that day in, day out, I eventually worked my way back up along with incremental training to being able to do whatever I wanted fitness
Yeah.
wise. Praise God.
Yeah. So in the visualizing, I'm assuming you visualized that it, or I should ask, did you visualize that it was painful and you didn't care and had indifference? Or were you visualizing, oh, my muscles are relaxed, I'm not in pain, this is safe and I'm good?
That's a good question. The latter. I visualized myself just having a great time, doing all the things I wanted, jumping, laughing, no pain whatsoever,
Yeah.
and just doing all the movements that I wanted to and that I used to, and seeing myself doing them again in the future.
You know, I'm gonna take the mic for a second and tell a little bit of my
Yeah.
story. As I started to see the relationship between my flare-ups and emotional content,
Mm.
my visualizing shifted from being about the thing that I thought was causing the pain to
Oh.
visualizing being in the emotional stressful situation and me being able to ground myself in the Lord and be in those
Mm.
situations, um,
Yeah.
to teach my brain I can be in complex emotional situations and be safe.
Yes.
So for me,
Yes.
that was like a big part. I'm talking like 6 months into my journey when I was able to
Yeah.
always identify psychologically what was actually causing the pain. But so anyways, I just
Yeah.
wanted to add
That's
that piece of
great.
visualizing. It was helpful for me.
I I love that. That's great. Um, if I had to pick a third tool, and everyone's going to bulk, I just feel like everyone's going to go, no, but no symptom talk. We can't keep
Yes.
talking about symptoms if we want them to go away. And I'll give you a couple tips because that seems impossible. When I heard that, I'm like, no way, no how. Like it's all consuming. To not talk about it would be, what am I going to talk about? But
Mhm.
as I heard other people's stories and as I learned scientifically, What we talk about, what we think about, what we focus on magnifies and grows. And I thought, how in the world am I going to not talk about it? So, to get some support in my house, I told my husband, this is the plan. Like, I need you to not ask me how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
I'm going to try very hard to not talk about how I'm feeling. And I might slip up, especially in the beginning. And he was on board. He's like, yeah, let's do it. It probably made him happy to
Probably.
hear that I wasn't going to be talking all the time. That's how he felt. And
Hmm.
we can do that in our lives. If there's people that are very close to us that normally ask us how are you feeling because they love us, they want to
Hmm.
know, they are concerned for us.
Hmm.
But we can also have that conversation, you know what? I'm trying to not talk about it and not focus on it. It's just part of this program or one of the tools I'm using right now. And I'm sure they will gladly help, help. They want to help. They want to be a part of your journey getting better.
Yeah.
So that's a biggie. I know it's hard, but it's doable.
Yeah. And I just want to echo what Stacey's saying. I did the same thing. I decided, okay, I'm not talking about it. And I lived with my sister at the time. So I went with her and I was like, here's the deal. I'm going to stop talking about my pain, but that does not mean I'm not in pain.
Yes. Yes.
So I could still use your compassion. Um,
Yes.
yeah, but it's really hard because I'm assuming we're saying the same thing. Like all I'd done is think and talk about my symptoms for years. Now what am I going to talk about?
Yeah.
Had
Yeah.
had to come up with a whole new game plan of my thought life. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it frees up, gosh, it frees up for so much more conversation and thoughts when we decide going to try not to focus on that. And to your point, you make a great point about let the person or people in your life know just because I'm not verbalizing and not talking about it doesn't mean I feel fantastic and let's go do all the things.
Mm.
And my husband said, no, I get it. Like, I think you're going to tell me if you're having a really great day. I know you're going to tell me. And I said, yes, I'll let you
Mm.
know.
Mm.
But otherwise, don't assume I'm just over here wonderful because I'm not talking about it.
Yeah.
So that felt good to me to explain that and that he understood that.
Tangent. I found that to be really powerful when I started applying some of this to my relationship with God and thinking about what I think about and what I talk about wires the
Yeah.
most and realizing
Yeah.
like, oh, like a lot of my negative outlook on, you go to a party and all you do is talk about the negative parts of it or the gossip, or you go out to lunch and you had a great time except for she said that one thing. And so
Mm,
it was helpful for me to see, oh, I have thought patterns or ways of interacting that I'm verbalizing and talking about all the negativity, which is setting my nervous system into defense mode
yeah.
a lot.
Yeah. That's great. It's a good point.
Okay, thanks for letting me tangent. What about uh, personality traits? This idea
Oh,
of repressing emotions and all the tactics that we subconsciously come up with. Um, what's your hot take on that, or favorite one to discuss?
yeah. I mean, hands down, without a doubt, perfectionism is the
Ah,
winner
okay.
for me.
Hmm.
And,
Hmm.
I want to point out, I just did a video on this and posted it today, interestingly enough, but the personality traits that we adopt, we do that as a way to cope with life as we're maneuvering life and trying to figure out how to adapt to people and environments around us. So we might learn to people please or seek approval or try to be perfect based on other things going around us. And just knowing that, oh, it's something my brain did subconsciously. It's just a part of how I adapted to life. And my brain helped me cope. Um, but I saw looking back in my life so much perfectionism. I knew that was the big key player for me that led to my body syndrome. I didn't have a big T traumatic, horrible trauma childhood. Thank God that I didn't. But it also was difficult for me because I was looking for the big trauma. What happened?
Yeah.
What caused all this? I can't find it. What's wrong? Maybe I
Hmm.
don't have mind body syndrome. I can't find the big trauma.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, the way that we show up in life, the traits that we exhibit, the way we talk to ourselves that we would never talk to a loved one or a friend.
Yeah.
We're not good enough. And why aren't you better? Those things matter. And those are things that can lead to symptoms in our body. It was for me.
Yeah. When you think about perfectionism, is there, I don't know, are there categories that people listening could consider? Um, like perfectionism can be in appearance, it can be in
Mm,
work behavior, it can be in your even your walk with God. Like, are there ways that
yes.
you have found that it showed up most for you?
I think for me, well, when I was younger in school, it showed up as striving to get good grades. That's
Okay.
how I was good
Hmm.
when I got A's and I
Mm.
got a praise and approval. Yay, good job. You did so good.
Yeah.
Um, Knowing what I know now, I was still good and worthy of approval and praise, even if I got C's, but to me, I thought, oh, A's is the way to get that.
Yeah.
You make a good point. There's so many facets in life that it can show up in. And I think, you pointed out our relationship with God. He wants a relationship with us, not legalism. And
Yeah.
how much time did I spend in my Bible? Did I pray enough? Oh man, I am a bad Christian. I haven't been to church in 3 weeks. There it goes. It's all out the window. He must not like me.
Yeah.
And then we judge ourselves and our ability and our worthiness
Hmm.
based on those thoughts that we have. So yeah, I think that for me was one way. And then work. I mean, school kind of relates to work. Are we doing enough? Are we achieving enough in life in general?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think when we're sick, maybe you can relate to this, it can be very hard. We can feel guilt and condemnation that we bring on ourselves because we feel like we can't do the things we want to do.
Hmm.
And for me, I felt like a bad wife.
Oh.
I wasn't showing up in life how I wanted to. No fault of my own,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Misplaced judgment. Oh,
Yeah.
that then's gonna just perpetuate that cycle and make it
Yeah.
worse.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. Totally.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So it's funny because you're talking about perfectionism and my primary one, what,
Uh,
and I like to was, and I consider myself a recovered or always recovering people pleaser.
yeah.
So that's mine. But as you're describing perfectionism, people pleasing and perfectionism, they just have this like really
Yes.
deep overlap that sometimes
I
you
think
can't tell the difference between them.
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great point. So yeah, people might listening might see an overlap and wonder what's the difference because as we're trying to be perfect, we're usually trying to please certain people in our lives as well, not let them down.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's a big part of it.
Gain their approval or their
Yeah.
smile.
Yes.
Okay, so in wrapping up your story, um,
Mhm.
did you heal?
Did I heal?
Did you heal? Are you able to
Yeah.
engage in life now? And just for the
Yes.
listeners, what's that like? What's the change?
Yes. The change is just something I dreamed about. I dreamed about getting my life back. I always prayed during my journey that God would use what I went through to
Mhm.
help other people. I
Mhm.
didn't know what that looked like. I had no idea how, but use this, Lord, so I can help other people not experience this awful experience, not go through the same stuff or help them get out of it. Um, I can do so many things now that I couldn't before. I mean, sitting pain was that in itself was traumatic for me.
Mhm.
Um,
We
I
have that
could
in
bike.
common.
Oh, you had that too.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was awful.
so, so awful. I can go biking. I can go hiking.
Oh my
I can
gosh. Yeah.
travel. The thought of traveling before was like overwhelming.
Hmm.
Because probably like many others, I'd been on so many special diets and I needed special foods, not to
Yeah.
mention the fatigue and the trip itself. Um, Eating what I want is glorious after being on diets for so long,
Yeah.
but diets were never the fix,
Yeah.
not for an issue that comes from your brain.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say it, but I hope that it sets some people free listening that avoiding certain foods or going on special diets won't fix a mind body issue.
Yeah. Yep. I fell down that
Yeah,
cycle too, trying
terrible.
all the diets, elimination, FODMAP, you name it,
Oh, yeah.
and oh
And it just makes you more miserable.
yeah,
But we get it, right? The desperation, I will try anything
yeah,
to, if this doctor says it worked for some people, maybe it'll work for me.
yeah,
And I get it.
yep. But if it's
Only
mind body,
not.
might have a short placebo effect, but in the long run, it's
Yes.
not going to help. Yeah.
Yes. Agree.
Okay, so now let's pivot a little bit. You have a Facebook page that we'll put in the show notes. Um,
Okay.
and on the Facebook page, I saw that you have I believe it's called
Mm,
Stretch and Breathe class. Is that true?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So when we're going from this life of sitting around protecting our bodies and not using them, kind of that transition out is difficult, and
Yeah.
it can make us feel alone. And so I think you do. Do you do one for free every once in a while if people wanted to try it out? How's that work with that?
They're all free right now. I used to
Oh,
charge, and
okay.
then I thought I would rather offer this as a free service and help as many people as I can. So it's all free right now. It is every other Friday, so first, third, fifth Fridays of the month. I
Okay.
do 12 p.m. Eastern,
Okay.
and it's for an hour. And just like you said, so let me backtrack a little bit and how this came to be.
Mhm.
I've been in the fitness industry for over 15 years, but I found myself in deep pain, in deep fear. I knew how to move my body, I knew what to do, but that didn't make the fear and the pain go away.
Yeah.
The fear gripped me, when I would try to move. So I
Mm.
started basically from nothing. I started on the bed, barely trying to just
Wow.
stretch super gently. And
Mm.
I'll add one thing that I think is really important in our journeys and trying to get back to fitness, well, really anything in general, but having patience with ourselves and having compassion with ourselves. This is already a really hard journey,
Yeah.
and we want to be better yesterday. Like we just don't want to put up with the weight and the process that this can sometimes
Yeah.
take. But when we can bring in that compassion and just that love for ourselves and the patience that is required to take this one step at a time. And that's really what I needed to do in getting back to fitness. I did the visualizations, but I tried to be kind to myself. I tried not to do so much and then get frustrated if I didn't feel well. I really did baby steps, starting from barely stretching on my bed. Then, when I felt ready, I was able to put a padded mat on the floor and stretch there.
Nice.
And
Okay.
then
Yeah.
ultimately just starting to do a little bit of body movement standing, no weights. I probably didn't use weights for like a year after I could just start to move.
Mhm.
Just trying to feel comfortable in my body, trusting that I could move, that I wasn't broken, all the messages of safety, right, as I moved,
Yeah.
and just did body weight movements. Um, so anyways, I think I did a rabbit trail, but as I taught myself to get back very slowly and finally reach full functionality and movement again, I was like, I need to help other people to get back the functionality, to get rid of the fear of movement, to
Yeah.
teach their brains that they are safe. This is how God designed us to be and to move.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's our right as God's kids, as humans, to move and to live this life the way that we were designed to.
Yeah.
And so it's just a very deep passion of mine, combining fitness and this information to help people feel empowered again, to move, to go get groceries, to run errands, to whatever they want to do in life, to not be afraid and to know that they can trust their bodies to do it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yes, because it's this journey, like you said, it's so hard. And the hard truth is that most of us are doing the journey without people that understand what we're going through.
Hmm.
People may try, but having a space like yours where you're introducing movement with other people that are being brave like you
Yeah,
are doing it, I feel like that's a little contagious of okay, other people are showing up and they are moving into
yeah,
courage and bravery, and let's do
yeah,
this together. I just feel like that would be really powerful. I didn't have that as part of my journey, and I love that
yeah.
you offer that. In fact, I actually, I mean, maybe you know of other people, but in the mind body community, I'm not aware of other people doing co-movement activity for as graded exposure together. So
Yeah,
that's
I don't
awesome.
think so. I think it's an area that could use more,
Hmm.
yeah, more offerings for
Yeah,
sure. I just felt really convicted, like, yeah, this needs to be a free service. I do other paid things. This can be like a blessing to people because
yeah,
it just felt called to do that.
love it. Okay, so
Yeah.
we will put a link to that movement class,
Awesome.
breathe and movement in the show notes, and then if people wanted to get a hold of you, contact you, work with you, tell me what you offer, what you do.
Yeah. So, I do coaching. I do one-on-one coaching. I'm not doing that as much anymore
Okay.
because I'm moving more towards group coaching and a brain rewiring program
Yep.
that my business partner and friend Christina Carlton and I've set up through Christian Brain Rewire. So we have group coaching. We have a self-paced and a live brain rewiring program, so two versions.
Okay.
And we're really pouring all of our resources and time into that. I will
Yeah.
say the page that you saw my free class on, the Christian Brain Rewire, we have a free Facebook group. I know some people don't have a lot of financial resources,
Yeah.
so I'm happy to share that link. We have a lot of free resources in the files section of that group,
Okay.
videos and teachings and books, because some of us need to explore, maybe not spend a lot, or just depending where we are in our journey. So we want to offer free resources to people.
Love that.
And of course,
Yeah.
we have the paid services as well for people that are looking for more guidance and more help. So
Yeah.
we offer both.
Love it. Okay. So we'll put all that in the show notes so people can
Awesome.
check out
Yeah,
all that.
sounds good.
Anything in closing, any words of advice for people on this journey?
You know, I think I just want to speak to the frustration
Mm.
that can come up, and a couple words about that. I think so often we can get stuck in just comparing ourselves to other people, their journeys. Why doesn't my journey look like that? Why did that person heal faster? Maybe I need to use all the
Mm.
tools they did. And we can get caught up in this comparison. And I think that's one thing that can make our brain feel unsafe. So
Yeah.
we're perpetuating the symptoms because in reality, we need to realize this is my journey. This is the path that God has for me. And
Mm.
also knowing, I don't know if I spoke of this earlier, but there's no formula. There's so many tools out there.
Yeah.
We know there's so many tools in the
Yeah.
community, whether it's visualization, messages of safety, journaling, indifference. But what works, the tool that works best is the one that works for you. And it might change throughout your journey. It doesn't need to look like someone else's journey. And we don't have to do all the same things that someone else did
Yeah.
because we all have different preferences, different personality traits, different traumas.
Yeah.
What speaks to you might not speak to me.
Right.
So we have to honor what's authentic to us, what's God leading us to do. It might change up daily or weekly. We just need to kind of be in tune. So I would just say don't compare.
Mhm.
And I think also trying to surrender a little bit, knowing that trying to let go of that frustration because maybe we don't see changes yet. But just remember every time we use a tool, every time we speak a message of safety or do a visualization or meditate on scripture, we're repaving those neural pathways. It's happening inside. We
Yeah.
might not see it yet out here, but when we do it long enough and those pathways are changed for the good more permanently, we're
Yeah.
going to see that iceberg. I think of it like an iceberg. You see the little piece at the top. You don't see all the work, everything underneath that we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, all that work, all the tools, the things that we're doing,
Yeah.
it's going to show. It's going to break through the surface, and we're
Yeah.
going to see a change.
Yeah.
And we will all get there if we don't stop.
Yeah.
We just have to let go a little bit of what that should look like or a specific timeline and trust that we are getting there.
Yeah. It sounds
I
like we're
think,
full circle. We're back to hope and
yeah,
trusting we're going to get there.
yeah,
Yeah.
amen.
All right. Thank you, Stacey. Thank you for your time. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
caring
I'm a,
about all the people in our community that are hurting. Yeah.
yeah, thank you for having me on, Jen. Thank you for the work that you do. And it takes a village, to get this
Yeah.
information out there. And I'm honored that God would use me, to share this information. So thank you for having me. It's been an honor.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching, and we will see you again next week. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.